Hello, dear friend. How are you today? How's your heart? I hope that this conversation finds you well. I'm at my favorite place ever, my local park, and it's about to storm, and the wind is blowing, and the leaves are changing on the trees, and this is just my happy space. I'm in my truck, and this is my podcast studio, so I'm really excited about talking to you today about my favorite topic ever, and that's journaling with intention. So, in this episode, I want to talk about the origin of journal coaching, like where that even comes from, and the difference between traditional journaling and the journal coaching method, and how it may serve you in your life. So, many years ago, I've been writing since I was 9. And I started, as many of us do, writing about our day, writing about the various events and people in my life, and just kind of writing my childhood dreams. And then as I got older, middle school, high school, my writing changed, and I was writing about even deeper topics, right? So even through adulthood, my writing was very surface, and I began to notice a pattern of writing that I was participating in, and that was called rumination. And what I was doing was ruminating over particular problems and challenges and obstacles in my life that I really could not figure out how to get over. So for many years, I have written about the same problems over and over again. I have books full of writing about the same problem. And one of the problems was that my life was an absolute chaos. Why? Because I could not say no. I practiced perfectionism. I didn't have good boundaries, healthy boundaries. I just wasn't able to say no. I didn't know what I needed, really what I valued, what I desired, and I wasn't living my life in alignment with those values, needs, and desires. Why? Because I wasn't clear. I didn't have any clarity around it. And so I found myself discussing this in my journal. And at one point, I stopped journaling. I stopped journaling for maybe 6 months to a year because I was so sick and tired of writing about the same exact story, writing the same narrative with nothing ever changing. And I remember thinking one time as I was writing in my bed one morning, and I was thinking about why journaling is supposed to help me get over this stuff. It's supposed to help me process, and it's supposed to, be this amazing tool where I can, accomplish my goals and navigate my obstacles and solve my problems, process these emotions, but it just wasn't happening. And so I just got sick and tired of writing about the same problem. So I just closed the book. And I decided that until I figured out what I'm doing, air quotes, wrong in my journaling practice, I'm just not going to write because I don't want to write this anymore. This is boring. And it was self-defeating. And so I remember opening my book back up, opening up the journal. I mean, it was about, I believe, it was almost a year. If not, it was like maybe 8 or 10 months. Like it was a long time that I just refused to write. So one day I just had to get it out because I was still facing the same issue, and I decided to just write about it. But this is what changed the game for me. On that particular day, I remember asking myself the question after I wrote down all the events, my triggers, what happened, who was involved, what happened in the situation, how I felt about it. I wrote it all down. It was pages and pages and pages. But the last thing I wrote in the journal was, okay, Nicole, so what are you going to do about it? I mean, bam, it hit me that I could make a choice here. I have options here. What are you going to do about it? I remember writing, I am sick of this. So what are you going to do about it? And that changed the game because I began to establish and create and explore a plan that I could use so that I can show up differently when this situation or this event or circumstance happened again. Because when we're dealing with problems, when we're dealing with obstacles and challenges in our lives, they're the same obstacles and challenges and problems for the most part. Those things that are triggering us, those patterns that we deal with, the way we show up, it's because of many times it's the same thing or the same person or the same situation. And that creates so much stress. So once we notice it and we ask ourselves, okay, how are you going to show up differently? Then that's when journaling becomes the tool for transformation. And that's what it became in my life. And so instead of writing all of the problems, all of the obstacles and challenges, I began to ask myself, what action are you going to take now, moving forward? And after that, every single time I wrote about a problem, I always questioned myself at the end, so what are you going to do about it? And I began to write with purpose. And intentional journaling was born in my life. And I recognized that I was not writing with a purpose. And so when I started asking myself, okay, how are you going to show up differently? I would write just a 3-step plan of how I was going to show up differently. And then when that situation arose again in my life, or I felt that trigger, I would process it. Why am I feeling triggered? What is this saying about my thoughts in the situation? How can I show up differently? What responsibility do I have in the situation? What choices can I make in the situation? Again, it was not about anybody else at that moment. It was about, oh, I have the power to change this situation. And if I can't change the circumstance, I have the power to change the way I think about it and the way I choose to behave in response to it. And that just opened my eyes like, girl, you have the power of choice. Now take it and wield it. And I did that one word at a time. And slowly but surely, I began to ask myself questions like, okay, what do I really value? What do I really want? What do I need right now? How can I show up for myself right now when I'm feeling this certain way? What is this feeling telling me? Emotions are indicators of some thoughts that we're having in response to an experience. So what can I do about my thoughts? Do I want these thoughts? How can I change these thoughts? And I began to ask myself question after question after question and start getting really curious about my brain and about my mind and about my thoughts and my feelings and my own actions, choices, and behaviors. And as I began to write from that lens, oh my goodness, I never was bored in my journaling practice again. It was always so much to write about because I began to learn so much about myself, and that cultivated self-awareness. And after that self-awareness, and I received those insights based on what I read, based on what I read after I, was writing, then all of a sudden I was like, okay, what do I want? And that became my intention. All right, so now I have an intention. I was so thrilled. Okay, so this is what I desire. This is how I want to show up. What are my values? What are my desires? What are my needs? Okay, how can I get there? How can I align my thoughts and my feelings and my choices and behaviors with what I need, value, and desire? I want that. And one of the values that showed up so powerfully in my life was peace. I needed peace. I was living in chaos. And I wanted a calm existence, a calm life. I wanted to stop doing all the things. I wanted to stop people pleasing. I wanted to stop the perfectionism. I wanted to stop, I wanted to start saying no. I needed that peace mentally and emotionally. I needed that space. And so I began to ask myself, okay, what are some solutions I can seek in my life to be able to give me what I want? And I began to write down various options, choices, and solutions. They didn't always make sense, but at least they were my choices and my options. And as I wrote down my solutions, my eyes became open to, wow, I have so much choice here. There's so much agency here. These are things I can do. These are things I can influence. I can choose to think this way. I can choose to feel this way about this experience. I can choose to behave and show up in this way. And so as I began to do that, then, okay, for many months afterward, I stopped. I just stopped at creating those intentions and writing solutions. I wrote a plan of how to get there, but I really wasn't convinced yet on how to take action. I knew what to do tangibly to take action, but I really didn't have that intrinsic motivation to take action. And so as I began to write, I began to encourage myself. Okay, you're still here, but why are you still here? Because you're not taking action, or the action isn't the supportive action that you need right now, or that action step is the action step that you feel may be right, but it may not be right for you, or that action step is not aligned with what you say you need, value, and desire. So again, back to the page. What action steps can I take to reach this solution that honors this intention in my life? And I was writing down so many action steps, 10, 15, 5. And I finally decided to just write 3. And then I scaled back to 1. And one of the questions I used was, what's the next best thing that I can do to honor this intention, to choose peace? What's the next best step for me? I just stopped there for a long time. And in every situation, I asked myself, what's the one thing I can do right here to honor my values, needs, and desires? And I let the value of peace become the lens through which I made every decision in my life. And every single time I did that and honored that value and aligned my thoughts and my feelings and my choices with the value of cultivating peace in my life, that's when life changed. And I began to say no because I began to value peace so much more. And peace became a non-negotiable. Yes, there were times when I was like, I just didn't honor that peace. I felt the pressure to do something else, to say yes to something else. And I didn't hold that boundary. And when I did, I felt horrible because I did not honor myself in that way. And it just caused more frustration or more overwhelm in my life. And I began to feel this overwhelm. This is not what I want to feel anymore. Choosing peace in my life helped me to change my relationships, release some relationships, release business relationships, personal relationships, choosing peace in my life, allowed me to release some opportunities that were just money makers, but didn't really add anything to my life in that way. Choosing peace encouraged me to change my thoughts, to shift my emotions, to change my behaviors. And I began to identify with a woman that lived a calm and peaceful life. And anything and everything and anyone that did not align with that value of peace, I had to release. And through writing, and I often say prayer, meditation, and mindfulness, choosing with intention how I wanted to show up in my life, I began to live that life. And so, as I took action, I began to reflect on the action that I took. Again, when I was feeling disconnected from myself or out of sorts or maybe anxious, then I began to ask myself, okay, I'm not feeling peace right now. Why? What am I neglecting? What am I allowing? Have I changed my agreements with myself? What is going on? Again, like a detective, I was curiously questioning, what have I allowed to replace peace in my life? What I was not doing was writing and questioning myself through the lens of judgment. It wasn't about judging myself. I did that for so many years. I tried to judge myself into change. It did not work. I belittled myself with my words. Oh, you're so stupid. Can you just get it together? Or you weren't raised like this. Just say no. Or when are you going to learn? Like, I was so cruel to myself in my journals. I look back right now, and I may share in the future. But I looked at some of my journals recently. We just recently moved in July, and I found some journals. I was reading to my husband some of the pages. I mean, it's like 10 years ago, and I was like, whoa, I was so mean to myself. But my inner critic, she was on 10. She really was. But that didn't help me change. What helped me change was gentle, curious questioning. And so when I followed those 5 steps, I was not sure that they were 5 steps at that time. It was just a process I took in my life. And I was like, okay, oh my goodness, I'm living this out. I am finally living a peaceful life. I'm finally able to create healthy boundaries. I'm finally able to say no. I'm finally able to move and show up without being quote unquote perfect. I'm finally able to live with intention and to follow through on my goals. I'm finally able to understand how to navigate these challenges and obstacles and solve my own problems. That blew my mind. And I recognized that I was able to shift my narrative from a person of a woman in chaos. That was the identity I gave myself. I'm a woman in chaos. And I changed it to, I'm a woman of peace. And I began to tell myself, girl, you are a woman of peace. Seek peace in all things. And when I recognized that, I was able to shift my narrative, and I kept going through this process over and over and over again. Again, reflecting on my life, reflecting on my choices, and seeing how those choices impacted me emotionally, And when I found that I was negatively impacted emotionally, when I started feeling these what we call negative emotions, I recognized that they were just indicators of me living out of alignment with what I say I need and value. And so that was self-awareness. And with that self-awareness, I would move to the phase of intention. Okay, let me clarify my intentions now. Let me focus on these goals. How can I solve this problem? How can I overcome this challenge or this obstacle? How can I cease from being triggered in this situation or by this person? I began to create those solutions and recognize again the power of my choices. And identifying the options that I had, then I began to take action on those and then reflect. And as I continued to do this cycle in my journal, and it was no more just ruminating endlessly about my problems. No, I had a purpose now, and I knew how to overcome. So I began to work through this model called SHIFT. And SHIFT was that model as an acronym, SHIFT. And I began to teach that model to my first journal coaching students. This was over 10 years ago. And they began to change and shift their narratives. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. What is this? We're not just writing down our thoughts and our dreams and what we like to eat and, our favorite color. No. This is something beyond this. What are we doing? And I recognized through just watching different people and different life coaches, I said, this is coaching. Like, we're using our journals as a coach. Because what's a coach going to do? A coach is going to ask you questions and help you find your answers. So that's what we were doing. We were using our journals. We were asking ourselves reflective prompt, good questions that will allow us to take action on our problems, taking action to overcome these challenges and obstacles that we were having. And that was so cool to me. That was like, oh my goodness, this is journal coaching. And so I started my podcast called the Journal Coaching Podcast, because I was like, okay, let me talk about this. What am I experiencing right now? What are my students experiencing? I want the whole world to see, because I know that many people, they talk about journaling, and many of them start the journaling process, but they don't have a purpose. They don't have intention. And then the practice kind of just fizzles out because it's not doing anything for them. So I kept wondering, why isn't it doing anything for them? How come they don't find that fulfillment? How come they're not able to use it as a tool? And I've been there, and I recognize they don't have purpose behind their words. And so years later, here we are, and more people are recognizing that you can use your journal as a coaching tool in your life. You can use your journal as a narrative shifter, a story shifter in your life. And there's a difference between traditional journaling and journal coaching. And so, using that journal coaching method, I began to create a framework that was a tangible structure for my personal and for my students' journaling practices. And that's where the journal coaching model came from. So again, those 5 steps of the process became the 5 pillars of how I journal in my life when I'm trying to solve a problem, or I'm helping others solve problems in their lives. It became this framework. And the 5 phases, or the 5 pillars again, are self-awareness, intention, generating solutions, taking action, and reflecting. And as I began to walk myself through that process, that's when life changed. And I've been writing like that ever since. And so that's what brings me here to share with you all, especially coaches, therapists, mental health professionals, people who help people, who recognize and understand the value of journaling, but may not be aware of how potent this tool can be as a life-changing, transformative coaching tool in your life. And I'm just here to share what I've learned and what I am learning. I'm learning actively about this practice we call journaling. I call myself a journaling practitioner. And I think I'm going to use that word for my community because we're constantly practicing the art of journaling. And I want to see journaling used as a tool to get more results in my life and in the lives of the people that I coach or serve. And I want to see journaling used as a tool of transformation in your life. So that's the story behind how journal coaching became a thing for me, where the model came from. And I'll be talking about more as we move forward, how I use the model in my life and how you can use the journal coaching model in your life and in the lives of those you love and serve in your life and in your business. Because this is something that everyone could use. And the premise of it, the foundation of the journal coaching method, is asking good questions. I can geek out about journal coaching, and I'm going to in the following episodes because I'm really excited. So anyway, let's just briefly talk about the difference between traditional journaling and journal coaching. So again, you know this, I know this, we're all here. So we all have some kind of experience with journaling. We've heard about it, we've experienced it in our own lives, or it is something that we're curious about. And journaling is something that many people turn to when they need to clear their heads, reflect on life, or just capture their thoughts and feelings on paper. I mean, it's a familiar practice. It's been around for ages. And it serves as a personal outlet for self-expression and personal growth. So, traditional journaling is a great way to get in touch with yourself, but there's another approach that takes things a step further, and that's where journal coaching comes in. So journal coaching adds structure, guidance, and purpose. Structure, guidance, and purpose to the journaling process. And that makes it a more transformative experience. So traditional journaling is essentially a free-for-all in the best way possible. And I'm not knocking traditional journaling. There is space for both. It's a private space where you can write about anything and everything. Journaling is a space holder. It's a private expression of your thoughts, right? You may write about your day. You may vent about something that's bothering you, or you just may be curious and explore your thoughts and emotions. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Okay, this is your practice. I often say that journaling serves you. The practice serves you. You don't serve the practice. And in future episodes, we're going to talk about challenges that show up in our practice where it can become overwhelming, and how to mitigate those challenges. In traditional journaling, you can write daily or weekly, or really whenever the mood strikes you. And one of the biggest perks of regular journaling is its flexibility. You're not confined by rules, you're not confined by expectations. So you can truly express yourself without worrying about structure. And that's incredibly freeing, especially during those stressful times when you need an outlet to process your feelings, right? So over time, if you stick with regular journaling, you might notice some patterns in your thoughts and reoccurring themes that show up in your writing, and that could lead to deeper self-awareness. But here's the thing. So while regular journaling is great for getting things off of your chest and gaining a few insights, it can also feel a little bit aimless because you don't have specific goals or a specific structure in your journaling practice. It may start to feel repetitive, like mine did, or even stagnant, like mine did as well. So that's why I quit. And that's why many people stop writing. So if you're looking to make real, significant, and sustainable changes in your life, if you're looking to achieve specific outcomes, traditional journaling, it might not always give you the direction that you need. So this is where journal coaching can become supportive to you. So this approach takes the basic idea of journaling and it gives it a clear framework that's designed to help you reach your goals. So it's like combining the reflective nature of journaling with the strategic focus of coaching. So instead of just writing whatever comes to mind, journal coaching guides you through that structured process that's all about personal growth and intentional living. So again, let's talk about the journal coaching method or the journal coaching model that involves the 4 steps I talked about earlier. Self-awareness or explore, clarify your intention, planning and generating solutions, and activation, which is taking action. I'm sorry, not 4 steps, it's 5 steps. And then we end with self-reflection. And it's really this cycle that you can find yourself in the cycle at any time. You can start anywhere at any time in this cycle. And it really is bookended by reflection. So because of reflection, you're able to cultivate self-awareness. When you're taking action, you're cultivating reflection because you're asking yourself, okay, is this action working for me? And then that cultivates more self-awareness. So it's like a cyclical framework that you can use in your journaling practice. So each of these steps, each of these phases in this model is designed to help you dig deeper. It's designed to help you set meaningful goals. It's designed to help you take action. And it will help you ultimately make those goals a reality. I often say, what if your words became real? This is the model to help your words become real. What you write becomes real. In this model, you begin by exploring your current thoughts and feelings. Then you move on to clarifying your values and setting those intentions that align with those values. And then you plan out how you're going to achieve your goals. And finally, you're going to activate your plan by taking real action and reflecting on it. So let's break this down even more. What are some ways that they are tangibly different? What are some ways that journal coaching and traditional journaling are tangibly different? Let's talk about 5 ways. Again, just to recap, intentionality. So with journal coaching, everything you write has a purpose. You're not just writing down random thoughts. This is not your free writing session. We may begin with the free writing session, but ultimately, when we're writing with the goal, we're not just writing our thoughts freely. we're working towards that specific goal. Journal coaching, again, makes your journaling sessions more focused and productive. It helps you stay on track and actually see progress. Number 2, guidance and structure. In journal coaching, you're often guided by a coach, whether it's a journaling coach, a life coach, or yourself. You're guided by a coach or that method, for example, the journal coaching method, that gives you direction and helps you become accountable. So again, this helps you go just beyond reflecting on the surface and really dig deeper into your thoughts and feelings. One of the questions that I had for myself as I was working through this process before I developed this model was, what do I do after the prompt? How do I dig deeper? How do I go beyond the prompt? Yes, we have these prompts. Yes, I wrote this answer, but what's next? So, journal coaching helps you dig deeper, helps you translate your insights into action. Regular journaling doesn't have this kind of built-in guidance. And again, it can lead to just purposeless or aimless writing. Number 3 is goal-oriented. So the whole point of journal coaching is to help you achieve specific outcomes. And we're going to talk about this over and over and over again as we move forward. So you may feel like, Nicole, you're repeating yourself. Well, I really want you to get this because there is a difference. So whether it's personal growth or developing new habits or overcoming challenges, journal coaching gives you that clear path to follow. Regular journaling might touch on the goals, but again, it's usually more about free expression and less about achieving specific results. Number 4, accountability. One of the great things about journal coaching is the accountability factor. You're encouraged to regularly check in on your progress, reflect on what's working or not working, and adjust your approach as needed. This helps you stay committed and feel so much more motivated. It helps you keep moving forward. Traditional journaling is more self-directed, so it doesn't typically offer this level of accountability. You're able to track your progress, and the tracking of your progress is what keeps you accountable to yourself. And we're going to talk about that, accountability in journal coaching, in future episodes as well. So, transformation and action. Number 5, transformation and action is another way that journal coaching can support you. So while regular journaling can definitely lead to insights, I'm not knocking regular journaling. Journal coaching is about turning those insights into action. So it's not just about understanding yourself better, but using that understanding to make real positive change in your life. And that focus on action taking is what makes journal coaching, such a powerful tool for anyone looking to grow and transform. So I mentioned earlier in this conversation that they both can work together. In my personal journaling experience, I am using traditional journaling, usually when I start, and I'm ending with journal coaching. So just because they're different doesn't mean you have to choose one or the other. Again, you're coming to your practice with a purpose. And some of those days you're just coming for free expression. Other days you're just writing for pleasure, just writing as a cathartic experience, just to get things off your mind. You're doing your thought downloads, just curious about your thoughts. And then you're closing the book. That's fine. But when you're ready to take those insights and dive deeper, and make those changes, then that's when you'll move over to the journal coaching practice. And they really do complement each other. So, as we wrap up this conversation, I hope that this kind of opened your eyes a little bit on the journaling practice. My goal here is to invite you to think differently about journaling. And that sounds crazy because it's like, Nicole, girl, what? It's not that serious. Thinking differently about journaling, but it is. It's life-changing if you really think about it. So this is an invitation, these conversations, what I teach, I'm inviting you to think differently about journaling, about how your practice can serve you in a deeper way. And I'm so excited to recognize that in my life and to share that with you as well. So let's sum it all up. So while journaling and journal coaching both involve writing and self-reflection, they do serve different purposes. And just as a recap, traditional journaling is all about free expression and emotional processing, and that gives you that flexible space to explore your thoughts and feelings. And journal coaching, on the other hand, is far more structured and intentional and designed to help you achieve specific goals, solve your problems, and make real changes in your life. So both approaches have their strengths.